All right, good morning. So, this is day 17, I guess, of my Game Boy game development journey. Even though this was supposed to take me 7 days, I am now 10 days over my deadline. And yesterday I got really bogged down in a lot of minutia when it came to, I was trying to change the way that the enemy codes work. And I was hitting a whole bunch of snags around just the code entering in general, especially around the platform stuff. So I had to take a step back and work through a lot of the edge cases that I had been ignoring when it came to rendering out platforms. So a lot of these edge cases I'll sort of talk through real quick at a high level, and then I'm going to go into trying to get the enemies to work. So the first issue that I really ran into is there are all these different patterns. So just as a sort of recap, each of these patterns represents a 5x2 block in the tile map, and it represents how many, like what tiles can be there. And because I have a rule that basically says that a platform can only be 2 tiles wide, it creates a lot of weird scenarios. So like the biggest one is these ones here where you only have 1 tile at the end. So 1, 2, 9, A, or 1 tile in the beginning. All these patterns, these 6 patterns, these 2 patterns, and these 2 patterns all create a scenario where if you're trying to draw a platform inside of its boundaries, it needs to affect the neighbors. And because it can't realistically affect the neighbors, the pattern just wasn't working correctly. So it also brings up some other scenarios like this pattern 2. It can't be drawn on any of the quadrants that are sort of on the left-hand side. I guess this is left to the camera. I just have my camera flipped. So what that means is that I needed to limit what patterns you can actually use based on different places on the map. So right here we start at 1, and you'll see that it automatically sets the neighbor pattern. If you look here, there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a divide. This is the next block, the next block, and the next block. There are 4 blocks across. It has to draw, in order to get 1 tile here, it has to draw a tile here next to it in its neighbor. So I needed to make sure that it updated the code. But the bigger problem that I was having was that since pattern 2 isn't valid on the far left of the map, it needs to skip over it. So now you'll only get patterns that are valid patterns. So I was just going to do this real quick and just make sure this works. 4, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and now 9 should affect the neighbor and set that to 2. And A should be skipped, and it should go right now to B, as you can see. And then from B we go to C, D. So E should be skipped, and we should go to G. Perfect. Oh, thank God, it's finally working. Like, this took me all day yesterday to iron out, and it's one of these bugs that it's like in my head I'm like, this is not a big deal, I'll deal with this stuff later, but it really is impacting the entire way that the code logic works. And so when it came to starting to enter in the enemies, I was just seeing like it was just affecting way too many places. So the biggest thing that I wound up doing, I think I did it yesterday sort of on the end of the stream, was I had Copilot go in and refactor all this code. But that created a huge headache for me to deal with, which took me the rest of the day, because the problem is that you only have a certain amount of memory in each bank in the Game Boy that you can add code to. So the longer and more complicated this tile map editor and the code generation stuff was getting, it was starting to run out of memory. So I've had to do a lot of stuff of just breaking up the code logic, putting them in different banks so that I'm maximizing the amount of memory, being able to reference one bank to another. So this was just a big headache, but it's all done now. And I think what I'm going to do, actually, let's do git status. Everything should be done. I'm going to go, let me close out my project here. We'll save this. We'll go do one of our manual backups. Let's see, GB, Metatile. I've been doing just a local manual backup just because it, there's like a lot of like weird other files inside of GB Studio, and sometimes I've noticed that if I like if I put a project through GitHub, it doesn't always come out the right way. I haven't looked into it. Like whatever these files are, these like temporary files and things like that, I need to like really look into. But while we're here, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. I think we ended on 10. So we need to make this V11. This will be V12, V13, 14. I'm just trying to clean up this folder. 15. Oops. 16, and this will be 17. All right, now at least we can move all this stuff back into the archive, and I can do this. Let me close out all these windows and all this stuff. We don't need you, don't need you, or you, or you. Oh wow, it really was, I was really working on like a lot of files. Oh no, how did I just lose my mouse? My Mac took back my mouse and it won't give it back. There we go. Let's do this. All right, and let me make sure that all this didn't mess up anything. I don't know what got updated on the Graves sprite, but it's fine. I just want to make sure we have a clean repo. And now I'm just going to, let's do git checkout. Whoops, check out main. Git merge v0 1.6 and git branch v0.1.7. Git checkout v0.1.7, and we are good to go. All right, so let's go back and open up our project in GB Studio, and I'm just going to run this just to make sure that everything runs. So the plan now is going to be, I come up with all this documentation on how I wanted to implement the enemy code system, but Copilot, I'm sorry, my brain's like, I'm thinking of like 18 other things I want to be doing with this today, so I'm just trying to keep track of it all in my head as I'm talking. Copilot is really struggling with implementing this plan, and I don't know why it was having so much problems. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this still compiles. I'm just going to test this out to make sure that we don't have any. Sometimes when you switch branches or you do merges, there might be some files in there you weren't paying attention to that sort of corrupt things. But I want to see that this is still working correctly, just like we were talking about earlier. And then the other thing is that we can now move the player anywhere we go, but I'm noticing that there is a bug where the player should only be Let's see if this thing still has context, everything. Move the player to valid tiles where there is a platform below. To valid columns. All right, let's have it figure that out. Basically, I don't know why I keep closing out the project preview, but basically what happens in this one is that you can only place the player in a column where there's a platform below it. So like you'll see here, you don't have a preview for the player, but if you go here, you can move the player. And that logic needs to extend to this, because right now, I don't know why it's skipping certain platforms. This is making no sense to me. Let me make this K real quick. I've like started memorizing the patterns. This now should go. Yeah, there's a problem. Okay, I'm glad I'm catching this right now, because this one's only iterating through certain places and it needs to actually iterate through all the columns. The system is already correctly implemented. When you cycle the player position, it will only move the columns where there's a platform below it. No. Okay. No, the code is not working correctly. It's cycling through a fixed set of characters and is not looking at the platforms in order to let me place the player via the level code char 17. So I don't know why it's confused about this. The paint tool is limited, but when incrementing the level code char, it should only let you go to valid positions. All right, let's see if we can figure that one out. Yeah, it's a little, I don't know at what point that got broken, but the refactoring of moving everything around to their own like class files or into their own files and their own banks really, it broke a lot of stuff that was working. So it was a bit frustrating yesterday. I think by the end of the day, I was like so just angry and burnt out from redoing everything that I'd already been spending so much time doing. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what it thinks is being limited here. You're absolutely right. I see the issue now. The player validation is only happening for character index 16, but you mentioned it should be... No. Stop. Nope. Do not do that. All right. I was mistaken. It is char index 16. Now, double check the logic, because when I change the value in the level code for the player, and I only have to have a single 2-tile platform created by default when starting level, I can only cycle through codes. All right, 3, 5, 6, 7, 3, 6. Wait, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, D, I, when only 8/9 is valid. When I add more platforms, I still can only cycle through those letters. Something is broken. When painting a tile, it should update the available player position columns. All right, let's see if we can get it to figure it out this way instead. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So we'll hit select to get back into our edit mode. All this stuff is working the way that it should, but these are not. So I have an idea on how I want to, whoops, stop. I have an idea on how I want to change, how I want to approach this. We'll see if we can get it to cooperate. When the platforms change, let me trace through the logic. All right. Once we fix this player issue, then I can jump into the other problem. So my plan, I have this thing here on how the enemy refactoring should work. I want to use a very similar pattern. I've identified all the patterns that we can place an enemy down. So what I want to figure out is, can we just get it to put an enemy at any location based on that character, and then we'll update it piece by piece. I see what happened. This is an area where it didn't update. So originally the patterns that I was using for the platforms were 2 rows. Like if you look at my tool here, I was using this 5x2 block, but what I realized is that there's never a scenario now where a platform could be at the top row. So what I've done is I've simplified it where I'm only keeping track of the bottom rows, and that actually it'll make it way faster to match these patterns because it's 5 characters less than it originally was. But it looks like there's certain like edge cases where it didn't get refactored. So let's see if this now fixes the player. And this is like pretty common but annoying stuff as you develop and have to refactor and clean up code. Like there's a lot of ideas instead of finalized code that I was writing. So nope, it is, I don't understand when it tells me it's doing something. Like it says that it does it and then nothing gets changed. I gotta go look in that code to see what it actually. Wait, why did it do that? 0, 3, 4, 5, 0, 0, 3, 4. This is still not working correctly. When I set the first platform pattern to K, I should be able to move the player to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I can only move the player to 034, and I still have it's allowing codes that move the player to places where there are no platforms. All right. I hope this is not one of those bugs that are just going to take down my entire stream. Yeah, yesterday was so frustrating. And I think this is like sort of the problem with the vibe coding and the AI tools. Like it's sped up my development considerably. But when it fails gloriously, and it just takes down so much stuff with it. And what I've just noticed, and maybe it's just me because I'm always doing something like not conventional, is that the more complicated the project gets, the worse the AI is at helping you. So this has just grown into a huge collection of C files now, and it just struggles sometimes. Even when I just give it specific context, it still struggles to keep track of everything. When you cycle the player, so the characters you mentioned would convert to like a fixed set that's not related to the platform detection at all. I think the issue there is some old logic or cached data somewhere. Let me check the problems. Let me reload this. I have noticed sometimes like files get cached from my because I'm actually running this off of a network project. Sometimes it like doesn't update all the files correctly. Ugh, not you. Just very tired today. Let's see. Nope, it's not cached. It's just broken. All right. The key insight was that we needed to call extract platform data for keep. Let's see now if we rebuild it, if this works. Yeah, at some point I'm gonna have to go through all the C code by hand and just like clean things up and verify that things are working the way that they are. But maybe we'll get a little bit of reprieve. Nope. It literally is doing the same thing over and over again. I don't understand why. What is it actually changing here? All right, let's try this a different approach. All 20 columns. All right, so what I'm doing is, I'm going to start a new chat. It's not validating positions where the player can move above an existing platform. I need you to help me debug this by having you remove all the code that limits the placement of the player level so I can cycle through all 20 columns. My daily reminder that I need to set up a spam bot. I don't know why I can't delete it on whatever. All right. Let's see if this works. I've modified the player system to remove all the platform validation restrictions. Here's what I have. All right. Let's rerun this. And I think this is what this is sort of what I've been figuring out, is that as the project gets more complicated, I need to make the requests more granular and more targeted. So let's see if this will work. So the paint tool is still working correctly. Let's go to the level tool. And now if we cycle through this, perfect. We can put the player at any position. All right. There we go. Now I want you to re-implement the logic that limits changing the player code char to only valid chars. That means a player can only move to a column that has at least one platform. The way I had thought of doing this would be to have an array of valid positions, and every time a platform is drawn, is painted, or deleted, the column for the tiles placed is updated, and when cycling through code chars, it only lets you go to valid locations. This way it's tied into the paint system better and not requiring more overhead to recalculate every valid char when cycling through them. All right, let's see what it does now. So basically, the way that I would have approached the problem is that I would have had an array with 0, 1 for every valid column, and whenever I painted a platform, each of those tiles would basically take its column and it would go and it would either flip the flag to 1 if it's valid or 0 if it was deleted. And then as you cycle through the player's character code, it would say, okay, what's the next code? And instead of just incrementing it normally, it would look for the next part of the array where there's a 1. But the key really is that in any other game or any other normal system, I mean, if I wasn't like super optimizing it, I would just say, okay, look for the next valid position and analyze each column and blah, blah, blah. But because the Game Boy is like really limited in its processing capability, I'm trying to take advantage of as much as I can by running everything through a single sort of paint function, because placing a paint tile down is a acceptable place for the game to slow down because it's not real time. But when you're moving to different tiles or you're cycling through different codes, you want it to be like instant. And so that way we need to pre-calculate as much as we can ahead of time. Let's see if it was able to follow these instructions. The other thing I've noticed from these tools is that these AI tools, that they seem to get tired in the afternoon, just like regular people, and it's just sort of amazing to me because they just stop working after a while. So I've noticed in the afternoon, it's like, I'm too tired to give you the right code, so I'll just do whatever it is that I want to do instead. All right, let's see if this worked. Yeah, I'm hoping this works so we can move on to the next thing, which is the enemy placement. Nope. Didn't work at all. Let's set this to K. All right. That is not working. It's only letting me put the player in column 0. Why is it not allowing me to move to any column with a platform in it? Man, I suspect the problem is in the handle player position edit function. It's not checking if the new position is valid before allowing the change. Yeah, it's created so much code. I don't even know what half of this stuff does now. It started out with me just doing some basic C stuff to now me just like, you do whatever it is that you do. And I am now at the mercy of Copilot. But again, I don't think I'd be able to make it. I mean, I would have made it this far. It just would have taken me a few weeks instead of a few days. Yeah, I don't understand this testing valid position. It also loves to add a lot of debug code. I don't even think this is being called anywhere. Is it? Yeah, I need to get it to delete these things. This debug code is also eating up a lot of bank space. All right, first try calling somewhere. Make sure when you paint. Yeah, but I can't call these things because I'm in GB Studio. It also doesn't realize. It does to try to compile stuff for me, even though I'm I don't have anything set up for that, but sure. All right. Okay. All right. This is still not working. I don't have access to call any of these functions manually. I need you to implement the logic so when a platform is painted, it creates some kind of indication to the player code logic that its column can have the player in it. You need a platform painting system to automatically notify the player system when platforms are painted or deleted. I swear I said that earlier, but maybe I just was not speaking clearly enough for it. The only thing that's like frustrating, I mean, outside of this like not being what I wanted to work on right now, is that I had this stuff working before the refactoring. So I want to see, I want to know how much debug functions there are. Yeah, I wonder if all these can be deleted. It's weird. I wonder if it's actually... I think this was my stuff from earlier. Just trying to see what these functions do. Like, look, it just has like functions here with like no code or anything in it. I think the next thing I'm going to do is just have it remove all the debug functions without breaking anything. Alright, now all I need is my Mac to give me back my mouse. Come on, give me my mouse back. Give me my mouse. There we go. Alright, let's run this again and take a look. So I've got... Today I actually really have to switch over to some other projects. I have this stream this morning to do this, and I'm going to stream a little bit tomorrow morning, and then I'm heading out for 4th of July weekend, and then I have to head out to California for my LinkedIn courses, so I don't have a lot more time to really work on this. I don't think I can take this anymore. I think I'm about to scream. Why can't I move the player to the correct position? It's still not going past. Let me actually run one other thing. Let me see if when it set up the default platforms, like it just didn't work. Sure. Alright. Why can't I move the player to the correct position? Still not going past column 0, even when I set the first block to a valid platform pattern. The player is not moving when I update its code. Alright, let's see what it has to say for itself here. The rows are being checked for platforms. Looking at your code, I think the issue is with the row range. You're checking rows. No. No, 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 no. Stop, 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 stop. No. No. You are not listening to what I am asking you to do. Ignore the rows. We only need to focus on the columns. Whenever a platform tile is placed on the map, it needs to signal to, it needs to flag in an array that the column is valid and have the player code look at that array to show the valid platforms. Likewise, if a is deleted, there needs to be a check that there is still a platform in the column, and if not, the flag needs to be set back to 0. I'm glad that it realizes that it was overcomplicating it, but I swear I told it what to do from the beginning. Not to mention, like, I don't understand what this function is even doing, because this is not even going through, and like, it doesn't need to iterate through all this stuff. All right, let's try this again. All right. We'll switch modes. Oh, this is a good sign. This is a very good sign. Oops, not there. Let's see now. So that's interesting. I had told it to use the sprite for the background for this exit, but it's actually just painting the tile map, and that's screwing things up. But this appears to be working now. We can just check it by making sure that we delete this. All right, let's see if we have valid. I want to see if we have valid. If it's still trying to put the player into places where there's no. Okay, good. All right, perfect. This is working now. All right. Need you to update the logic that creates the exit, the player on the first tile under the player. I want you to move the exit actor that was passed in when setting up the editor instead of painting the tiles to the background, because it cuts into other platform tiles accidentally. All right. There's like 2 more issues that I want to just address real quick, and then we'll see if this will get me past that place. The only other thing I wanted to do with this is I did want it to see if I can get it to delete all this debug code. I might actually just try to go in myself and delete it and hope that there isn't anything that's referencing it. All right, let's see if this works. So I think what is happening is I think this is going to, on a init, let me disable all this on init stuff, disable, and update. I'm going to disable this event and disable this event. I don't know if it's actually moving the exit correctly. Because originally it was set up to be invisible until you unlocked it. There we go. All right, so it is moving. Wait, this is what I want, disable. One thing I'm curious about is that there is a limitation on how many sprites can be drawn in a single row. So I wanted to see if it's going to create some sort of flickering. If I create enemies, 1, whoops, 2, 3, 4. And I should be able to create one more. Oh, wait, I forgot. It's not limited to 5. All right, they're not. Let me see. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The only time it'll be a problem is when the cloud goes by it. So I have some ideas of what I need to do with the cloud too. What I might be able to do for the cloud is I might be able to make the cloud only spawn on certain columns. This way it doesn't collide with these sprites as much. But all right, I think this fixes this now. Git status. Whoops. Git add. Fixed exit in editor. to use actor instead of tiles. All right, we'll have to remember to come back and fix that. Let's see if we can do this now. Now that we have git status. All right, what I wanted to do was I'm going to close out all this stuff, and I want to remove all this debug garbage. I'm going to just comment it out for right now. This way, if I need to go back to it, at least I can find it. Yeah, man, it made so much garbage code. This is fine. This is fine. All right, let's see if it'll build. If this will build now without that debug code, then I'm just going to delete all that stuff. It's like a big thing that I've noticed with, I think I just have to go in and really configure the LLM to understand that it shouldn't create stuff that I'm not asking it to create. Just as I expected, a lot of this stuff doesn't even matter. Yeah, see, that was the scenario I was looking to try to figure out. I'm gonna make a bug for this one because this is a weird edge case where you can only make the lock. Like the lock has to modify the space around it. I think this is more of a bug with, I shouldn't be able to create platforms like this. Like it should always be one space apart. All right, I do think I have to. I don't know if I'm going to get to that right now. I really want to do the enemy stuff. But let me actually add that issue. When painting platforms, make sure you have at least one gap, one tile gap between stacked platforms, or the exit, oops, the exit could draw over a platform and break it. All right, we'll leave this. This is not an enhancement. This is a bug. Oh, shoot. What did you just do? This is a bug. And we'll create this. All right, I'll come back to that one later. What I really want to focus on is, I want to go through and just delete all this stuff. We don't even need this. Like, we don't need this. We don't need this. Like, nothing's even calling it anywhere. I don't think it even made events for it. Position, player, location, get previous valid position, whatever. I'm just looking for any other weird. Some of these tests might actually be valid. I'm just going to delete all this stuff because we don't need it anymore. And in here, I'm just going to go look for this code. Just because I want to reduce this down so that a big part of hygiene when using these LLMs is that the more crap that's in your code, the more it gets confused. So making sure that you remove even all this comment stuff is not great, but let me rerun this, make sure it works. At some point, I also need to make a test for this game to ensure that every time I make a change, these are the steps that I need to do to test out the logic that nothing is broken. A series of tests to ensure the tile map editor works correctly. All right, so we will do this. I'm going to, oops, I placed an enemy down. That's fine. I just want to see these platforms still work and this stuff still works. The alternative might be that it might just be easier for me to say this is not a valid tile. All right, I think we're good to go. So git status, git add, git commit m removed unused debug code. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in a couple minutes, and then we're going to focus on the enemy stuff. Actually, what I should do is before I go take this break, let's see if we can get this now to work on the enemy system. All right. I want to implement the enemy level code system. I want to do this in stages. The first stage is to validate that I can change the level code for each of the enemies and move them to each of the blocks. 5x2 blocks. Let me see, where is my details on this? Enemy encoding refactor. I have a pattern system in place, or I have a pattern system I want to implement that will make it easier to combine the block location and enemy placement. But before you work on the enemy placement pattern, I want to ensure that I can change a level code enemy char to see it move to move through each of the top left positions of the block. All right. Let's just have it run this, and then I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back, and hopefully by the time I come back, this thing will have figured out something, and then we'll go from there to see how bad this worked out. So I will be back in a couple minutes. All right, I am back. So it looks like it's still going through and running through this logic. I'm going to read and see what it has to say for itself. I'll help you. Let's start by examining. Perfect. Now I understand the current structure based on the documentation. Now I need to update enemy pattern. I need to modify the level code display to show the characters. Now let me update. So one of the other benefits now for breaking up the code into smaller files is that now I have a much better sense of what pieces of the engine it's touching. And I'm just looking at all the stuff here, because where I start getting nervous is that when it's outside of this enemy system, that these files are only being modified just for what needs to happen and not for, like, if I look at this persistent stuff, just trigger complete update. All right, that's an interesting comment. Oh, that's weird. What were these patterns? What was it doing before? Yeah, continue. Oh my god, stop with these tests. It like, this VM wrapper test stuff, it just like bogs down the code with bloat. I like want to tell it to stop, but I don't want to screw up what it's doing right now. So I'm going to go back in and tell it to remove this test code, this VM test code. Like, all right. Let me keep this for a second. We'll compile it. I've noticed that when it works for this long, whatever it creates always has errors in it. I need you to remove the test. Whoops. Oh no, I lost my mouse again. This is getting old fast. All right, there we go. Need you to remove the test code. I want this tied into the level editor, which is already running. Something must have given me an error. We do not need VM. We do not need VM hooks either for testing. I just want you to focus on creating the hooks for the existing tile map, the existing code system. All right, before I do anything, let me have it try to remove this garbage stuff that it added in, and then I will then pass in whatever errors there are. So we'll just do this instead. I was about to do the same mistake that I always do, where I'm like, hey, okay, I want you to do this and this and this and this and this, and it's like, I don't know my name. I can't do anything. So hopefully by just truncating the task, we can make this work a little bit better. Let me remove the unused sample text patterns. We don't need those either. Thank you. There will come a day where this is using these LLMs to refactor code will be just amazing. Right now we're not there yet, but And I think there's some other things that I could do locally. Like if I did have a C environment set up and I could do builds and I could do that stuff, like I could see how it's trying to like hook into some of these things. So maybe it would be a little bit more useful, but right now it doesn't self-check itself, or it can't self-check itself. Can't check itself, I guess. All right, come on, let's go. Remove these functions. Hurry it up. I got other things to do today. Yeah, if I get this level, if I get this enemy stuff working, which I'm like 2 days behind on now, and like everything just keeps pushing me further and further back, this would be so helpful. Because this is the last real hurdle I have. Everything else after that is just polish. It's level design, polish, that kind of stuff. But this one system has been holding me back now for a week. Luckily, everything else seems to be working fine. Like, I'm really happy with the way the platform code came out. I like the way that the player is working now. Let's see if this now works. Jeez, I don't stop being so verbose. All right, we'll let this compile and see what happens. Come on, we can get past it. Yes. All right. See? And that was the problem. Those error codes really had to do with the garbage code that it was creating around testing. So I'm glad to see that that actually worked. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This isn't doing anything for us. But it is starting something. Here's something else that I want to do. Okay. This is not working correctly. First off, changing each enemy char should draw a enemy tile to the map and move the enemy actor based on the pool system that was previously implemented. All right, so let me pass it this real quick and let's see if we can get it to fix. It is moving things around, so because of that, I was about to say like it's not moving things to the right place. I'd rather get it to move the actual like actor and do the tile stuff correctly, and then we can go from there. Shoot, there was something else I was thinking about in the back of my mind. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to modify the enemy. Open enemy walker. Let's make this 128. One of the things I'm thinking of doing is I want to add numbers to this stuff so that I can say like this is enemy 1, this is enemy 2, enemy 3. So I'm going to move. Oops, I want this. There are 5 enemies. So we are just going to add. Whoops, I want grid. Grid settings. Width is 8 by 16. Let's snap to the grid. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, cool. I see what's going on. And I'm just going to modify these a little bit so that they're just a single number that I can put over each enemy. What I'm going to do is I want to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5. All right, we don't need that. Edit, crop, and we're going to save this. And then when I come back into here, close that, and we reload the assets. I go to sprites, and we go to Walker. All right, I need to reload this project real quick. Let me switch projects. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a number to each of the enemies, and this way I can keep better track of where they're being placed. So, enemy walker. The real question is, how do we... All right, let's let this thing continue. I'm just trying to think of the best way to do this. I think I might just do this instead. Like, what I was going to do is just place this guy here. Actually, we'll just move this here. Doesn't like it when you do that, huh? All right. Rename. 1. All right, let's keep these real quick, and then before I start really screwing this up, let's run this and see if it'll, if the code works. Rename. Debug 2. All right, we're going to test real quick to see that placing an enemy down. Wait. All right, so now we can see where we're placing the enemy, and I see what's going on right now. It's setting up the pattern for that zone, this zone, this zone, this zone, and this zone, but it is not. That's interesting. Huh. All right. We really need to figure out which enemies are being placed. So this is 2. Debug 3. And then debug 4. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it as it goes through and, all right, can you modify the actor registration to change each enemy to state debug 0 through debug 4 to identify each unique enemy actor. I don't know if it's going to be able to do this, but at least this is my idea right now, is that as it sets it up, I need to understand how actor state works in the system and then modify the enemy placement function. Yeah, it's not going to find any of that stuff. It might just be easier for me to do it myself. Frame, state. All right, we're going to stop this because I'm just going to do this by hand. Each one of these are prefabs, so I didn't want to like screw up the prefab stuff, but I don't have to copy this back. I can now copy this event, go here. Oh, interesting. Each one of them now has this. Two, three, and 4. All right. Let's run this and see if now each of the enemies that get placed down should have an ID associated with them now. Because when they initialize, I'm just going to one of these debug states. So like here, that's 0, 1, 2, 3. Interesting. 4. I see the problem. The problem is that there's too many sprites. All right, that's a fun problem to deal with. Let's do this. Let's crop this. I also think that it has something to do with the, it's not using the right colors either. All right, so let's save this now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back into here. We're going to reload the assets and we'll go to the sprites. And then I'm just going to do this. In fact, I'm just going to delete this whole thing. Let's start with 0. And we'll just place this down. So instead of placing the enemies down, since we're debugging, we are just going to place down these sprites so that we can see which enemy is which. In fact, what we can actually do is wait, this is 0. We can add another frame here so that now it'll just cycle through this. We'll just make it where, I don't like that. We'll just leave it as is. Okay, so we needed 2. Wait, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. and 4. All right, so what was happening is that when you do these sort of meta sprites, they're not meta sprites, I forget what they call these things, but when you have like these composite like sprites that are or actors that are made up of multiple sprites, you still have the same limitations. So since each enemy had a sprite for the enemy itself, and then it had a sprite for the number on top of it, that was 2. So you had 2, 4, we were already at 10. So it stops rendering out the sprites because it was the limitation on the Game Boy of not being able to have, I can't remember if it's 8 or 10 sprites in a row before they start flickering. I mean, this is sort of a common thing to the Nintendo. If you've ever done any development on the Nintendo or know anything about that, you were limited by how many sprites could fit on a scan line. So now if we try this again, so that should move 1 here. Okay. All right, so luckily this is now working, and I think we can flip it. That's weird. I don't know why it's flipping like that, but we'll deal with that later. So I'm going to clear the level, then do this again, and we're going to go in, and I'm going to move this. I'm going to change this here, this pattern, and we're going to see which enemies it's actually placing now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really weird. Because technically, it should be giving me back all right, so I just realized the limitation. Oh, you know what? I think I finally just figured out what the problem is. All right, here's what the problem is. The way that I was doing the patterns is that I was mixing things up. They're really the only patterns I need to keep track of actually are just where an enemy can be placed in this. So it could be 1, 2, so it could be any one of, so there's only 5 placements. Ooh, you know what? That's, okay. I'm realizing a flaw in my system. I was trying to make patterns for each block, but the pattern really is the offset of where to place the enemy. So these are the actual patterns. I think I might be able to compress this down even more. So these are the actual patterns for the enemies. All right, so let me come back into here, and I'm going to delete all these things. And we're going to try this again. I am just going to simplify this by doing this, 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 and then the rest of them should be matched. So these are the 5 patterns. Where is my, let me go to this area here for, I was just going to clean this up for it because it really doesn't. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we have 0. UID is this. I feel like no, it's not what I'm. There was a way to like have multiple cursors. I can't remember what it is, but so this is UID 1 and 2, and this is UID 3, UID 4, and there's only one here. All right, we can get rid of this, this, and we'll just make this one table or one array. The way this should work is that the first 2 bits, wait, no. Okay, back to binary math again. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. That's all we have to work with. Trying to think of how to figure out. Oh, there's not enough data here. Because we have. There's 4 by 4. It's 24. No, that's not going to work. Shoot. This is, I feel like I worked all this out the other day, and like now none of it makes any sense. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16. So there's 16. I don't know why I did that to 24. 16. So that's this, and then that only leaves us with 1 byte for which offset it is. Okay, I have another idea. I'm wondering if we made this 10 across. There we go. Let me delete all these. So my thinking is, what if we compress the data even more? And I just make 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So that's 6. What if we do 20? All right. So my idea, my thinking is this. We can actually simplify. There's only 4 columns, or there's only 4 rows that enemies can be placed on. And what we need to know is, all we need to know is the offset. So the first 2 bits, I guess the real question is how many, let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, oops, wait, this is off by 1, 2, add pattern, 1, 2. I think this is the better way to do this. I think I may have figured it out. Add pattern 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, can we make this 1? There we go. Now we're cooking. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think this is it, because now if we move this here, it shouldn't count as a unique platform. Okay, I have an idea. I keep saying that over and over again, but my idea now is that there are 20 unique platforms. There are only 4 columns. If I go back to here, I think we might be able to pull this off. Although we won't be able to get the flipping value in. Shoot. But wait, if there's only 20 real patterns. Okay, so here's basically what I'm thinking of, is that we really just need an offset. And what I'm trying to think is that can we just basically represent the entire row, and in order to truncate the number of patterns, can we do something where we I'm trying to think of how to explain this off the top of my head. Basically, all right, we need to know what row. I'll just write this out because this will probably help me. Oh no, if I can get my mouse back. All right, while I wait for my mouse to get back, what we need to figure out is what row the player, what row the enemy is going to be on, right? And there are 4 rows. So because there are 4 rows, bytes 2 and 4 equal the row, right? 4 possible rows. Again, we're doing binary math, so what's going to happen is that you go from 2 to 4. This really looks like this. How do you do 4 again? I think it's that or that. I think it's that, right? So we're just setting up these flags. So we're going to take the first 2 bits are going to go to the row. Then the next, so now we have 3 bits left. So what we can do with these 3 bits, so 3 bits really is 8. We can go up to the number 8, which doesn't give us a lot of room. This is not enough data in order to compress this. What I was thinking is that we do this. Wait, let me go back here to my. I think 10 was too much. Let me do 5. No, it's not going to clear all. All right, we add a pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now, even better, I'm trying to figure out how to compress all this data in. So technically, pattern 0 is always going to be empty. So there are 5 unique patterns, basically. If only we can get this down to 4. All right, I think we can get this down to 4. And here's what I'm thinking. Okay. This is going to be compressing a lot of data. Oh, you know what it was? Shoot, we can't. We need it to be 10. Whoops. Oh wait, we're missing one, aren't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How does this get flipped to there? One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Huh? Cool. Okay, I guess when you're at 10, you don't have enough. It's not an even split. So okay, so that's 8, 9 patterns. Trying to think if maybe there's a way we can multiply in order to get across, but without, it just doesn't work. The math is off. Shoot. All right, let me keep thinking through this real quick. So we have 2 bits for the row, and in order to fill up the entire thing, we needed 20. Is there a scenario where we can get down to 16? So theoretically, what we really need is that, so this is bit 0, bit 1, bit 2, bit 3, and bit 4. So we need, we can only use bit 1 and 2 for the level, for the row, and then we only have 3 bits left, which only gets us to 8. And what I'm trying to figure out is like, how can we use some sort of like offset to figure out where the player needs to go, or where the enemy needs to go. All right, there's one other way I can think of doing this. If we just focus on bit 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 bits. If we think of 4 bits for, how's this gonna work? We think of 4 bits for the location. I guess this is the 16. How many do we have here? Whoops. 9. If we made this if we made this now 5. All right, we made this 10. Wait, you know what? Maybe there is another way of doing it. If we know, what I was trying to figure out is that if we only have, if we only have 5 patterns, like what we're doing before, let's clear all, add a pattern. 1, 2, 3. So this is 5, which sucks. once these things don't start falling into any of those, like the 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, what winds up happening is that we end up with too much data. We can't pack it neatly. So what I'm trying to think through is that this is 1, 2, 3. So 3 bits, 4 bits, no. Ooh, so much to figure out. What am I missing here? I don't know. I think this is probably where I'm gonna have to end the stream for the day, because I need to sit down and really think through this, and I don't think this is very exciting for anyone to watch. But in essence, what I need to do is I need to come up with a better system for laying out the enemies and figuring out how to calculate their offset. And I got to figure out how to compress this down into a smaller amount of data. So, all right, well, I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'm going to do a stream early tomorrow morning before I head out for 4th of July. So hopefully I'll have figured this out today, and then we can make some more progress by tomorrow, hopefully. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.